Hi everyone, my name is Danielle Fopp and I'll be taking you through today's lecture on social appraisal. The social appraisal is a very important part of the general appraisal of your construction project, since many infrastructure initiatives cause severe adverse impacts on communities surrounding the site on which they are implemented. Social appraisal is an exercise aimed at identifying and analysing such impacts in order to understand the scale and reach of the project's social impact. It also ensures that these impacts are mitigated to the extent possible and fully considered by the client when they have their green light decision. For any given project, if a client comes to you as the project appraiser with a list of their potential project issues and says, "Hey, I have a list of the potential project issues for you. Can a social appraisal be completed 100% internally? Excluding very small projects which are routinely done in an area, for larger infrastructure projects, do we think that a social appraisal can be completed 100% internally by the client?" No, they cannot, because social appraisal is about listening to others. It's about listening to the community and listening to the stakeholders. The project appraiser will complete the social appraisal with various techniques such as research, data collection, analysis, and assessment. Community engagement is equivalent to our data collection for a social appraisal. And data collection methods include discussions with government agencies, interviews, community workshops, focus groups, written and oral stories, first-hand testimonies, community histories, community surveys, and these will all link in with your appraisal. So how do we go about community engagement? Well, we touched on this previously, but we want to make sure we have clear objectives laid out. We want to know how we are approaching the engagement and what tools we will be using, and also when to engage. You do not want to engage once construction has already begun. You want to engage early in the process. We will also look at engaging with Aboriginal people. Listening is a critical component of research and data collection in a social appraisal. And the appraisal should make sure that we are covering local communities, traditions, local values, making sure that we incorporate the country or location of the project into our collection of data, and also socio-cultural information. Listening to the community and to stakeholders helps us to better understand where they are coming from and what the issues for the construction project may be. Active listening refers to your willingness and ability to hear and to understand. Many of us intuitively know what active listening looks, sounds, and feels like. However, we may not know what we need to do to be seen as good listeners. So the first thing we can focus on is giving the speaker our undivided attention. A primary goal of active listening is to set a comfortable tone and allow time and opportunity for the other person to think and to speak. By paying attention to your behaviour, for example, not being on your phone, and that of the other person, you create the setting for productive dialogue. You should pay attention to things like your frame of mind. You need to get in the frame of mind of a listener and a learner. Your intention is to connect and to understand their perceived issues about the project. It's not your job to interrogate the other person on their perceived issues. You need to operate from a place of deep respect and let yourself empathise with the other person. You'll need to accurately summarise the other person's ideas, concerns and feelings at the end of the discussion. So as you go, you need to be prepared to do so, taking notes and asking clarifying questions. So throughout the consultation, you'll need to double check any issues that may be ambiguous or unclear to you. Open-ended, clarifying and probing questions, when used effectively, are important tools. For example, open-ended questions. These questions draw people out and help them expand their ideas, and they also allow you to uncover hidden issues. They encourage people to reflect rather than just justify or defend a position, and they allow you to have answers to questions that are not a simple yes or no. For example, you might ask something like, what are your thoughts on XYZ? What led you to draw this conclusion? What would you like to see next? The clarifying questions help ensure understanding and clear up any confusion. They define problems, uncover gaps in information, and encourage accuracy and precision. Any who, what, where, when, how, or why questions can be a clarifying question, but those are not the only possibilities. For example, you might ask something like, let me see if I'm clear on this. Are you talking about XYZ? I think I must have missed something. Could you please repeat that? It may also help others by providing clarity about the feelings they experience but aren't consciously aware of. So here are some examples of paraphrasing emotions. You seem to have doubts about XYZ. It seems to me that you're feeling very happy about this aspect of the project, XYZ. You then need to make sure that throughout the consultation phase you are reflecting. You are reflecting both information and emotions without agreeing or disagreeing. You're using paraphrasing, which is a brief recap of the other person's key points, to confirm and clarify your understanding, reflecting the other person's information, perspective, and feelings. It's a really great way to indicate that you hear and to understand. And it's also a great way to make sure that you've understood what they're saying and can report on it later. We also need to suspend judgment. So active listening requires an open mind. It's the willingness to hear ideas, accept different perspectives, and entertain new possibilities. Even when good listeners have strong views about a project, they suspend judgment, hold their criticism, and avoid arguing or trying to sell their point of view on the project right away. You need to consistently remind yourself that you are here doing consultation to understand how the other person sees the project. It's not the time for you to judge or give your view. And it's really important that as part of this course, you start to assess your ability to not only active listen when somebody else is talking, but also to suspend judgment in a conversation. Then, once you've gained a clearer understanding of the other person's perspective, it's time to introduce some fun facts or some key aspects of the project which they may not have known about. For example, if they're triggered about a certain aspect of the project, you could point out something that they didn't realise. What's an example? Well, often people that are living right next to a construction site or are having their house impacted heavily by noise will focus solely on the fact that during construction or after construction the noise levels in their area will be elevated. This is an understandable cause for concern. What can you do during consultation and as part of the project appraisal process? It's focusing on things like, well, hang on, maybe they aren't aware of the noise barriers in place. Maybe they aren't aware of the new trees being planted or the mound barriers in place to prevent some of that noise reaching their yard. At the end of your active listening, it's always important to share some positive aspects on the project. So you don't want to push this on people immediately because they'll feel like they haven't been heard. But once they've had a chance to speak, you've reflected, you're clarifying, it's always a lovely way to end a conversation on a high and on a positive.